In the podcast community, the people are represented by two separate but equally important figures, Two-Spirit Penguin and Broadcaster Nickels. These are their stories.
One more time, Nickels. How'd the bird die?
South Jersey's a terrible place, Detective. Any bird handler worth their salt would tell you that.
Still haven't explained to me why dead up and coming toucan was found in your van parked outside Ocean City limits.
Too many toucans. Not enough cereal commercials, I suppose.
God damn it, is this Law and Order or CSI Miami?
God damn it, you're an actor.
Wait, is this the one Scott Bakula's in? Because if it is, I'm on board.
Scott Bakula was great in Tremors. Am I winning, Dad?
Put on your big Hollywood sunglasses and light the torch, because it's cellar time. Welcome to the Crack Cellar, as the prophecy was once undone. I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
And I'm Broadcaster Nickels.
And today, we talk about one woman who can save all of us from the patriarchy. No, it's not Gamer Girl. No, it's not Captain Marvel. Broadcaster Nickels, tell me, who could this vixen be?
Let me go over the court documents real quick. Yikes. Don't tell me. It's not the redheaded vixen.
Not like
Barbara Gordon. Barbara, I need you, Barbara. We need you to start a game, Barbara.
So soon, in the year 2021, we will be gifted something handed down to us from deities who know the power and the will necessary to save Gotham. And it's going to be done by Batgirl, Broadcaster Nickels. Batman is gone, okay? Batman died in the Kenosha riots yesterday. He was a casualty. Look it up.
Hold on, Two-Spirit Penguin. Withhold one spirit for a second. Say that again. Say the city name one more time.
Kenosha.
There we go.
What did I say?
I don't know, but it wasn't Kenosha the first time. It sounded very exotic.
I think I enunciated it exotically on purpose to add to the level of complexity in which we are talking about a Gotham Knights video game.
I'm such a tool. I can't believe I questioned you.
It will be forgiven this time, but there may be demerits put on your monetization record in the future. We'll see.
Not my YouTube bucks.
Dude, do you remember the South Park episode that came out like 6 years ago about YouTube influencers before they were really a thing? Like right when they were kind of budding, and like you had like the Chocolate Rain guy, and you had like all those proto YouTubers.
Well, I think you had PewDiePie. I think PewDiePie was just starting to become a thing back then.
He was small time when that episode came out, but I always think about that episode and that where's my money? What money? You know, the internet money. And like it became like this mafia episode. How poignant is that goddamn show? I swear to God, those guys just call everything in advance.
They do. But you know, I feel like we just get the future we deserve, you know? Yeah. That's just kind of like with everything. I was listening to somebody else say that they were talking about tech. I think it was Lex Friedman podcast, and he was talking to, I think, someone about the technology we get is the technology we deserve. And they argued about it, but I just thought that notion was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, well, technology is usually what Batman uses because, Batman is one of the
fucking gots.
He's one of the few superheroes in existence that has absolutely no superpowers. And it's one of the reasons he is different and special and also dead. Broadcaster Nickels, we are being presented with a better timeline, a rebuilt timeline that has buried the past and brought us the new era of superheroes. That would be Batgirl.
Fam.
And Robin. And this isn't Robin that you remember.
And 3 flavors.
All 3 Batmans.
All 3 Robins, damn it.
All 3 Robins. All 3 Batmans. Is there a third Batman? Who is the third Batman?
I am the third. I gotta take a shit.
Well, okay, so it really is kind of like 3 Batmans and 3 Robins, because you got Batman, Batgirl, and Nightwing, and then you have Robin, Nightwing, and Red Hood. Now, I get it, Nightwing isn't really Batman, but he's the one version of Robin that was
Batman
supposed
Jr.
to be Batman, right?
Yeah.
So I stand by my original statement. We got 3 of each.
That's not true. Yeah. They're doing it differently. I don't know too much about Batman, but I know there's 4 Batmans, really. One's a Wayne. I think what's Damian Wayne, which is Batman's actual blood. Mm-hmm. And he's the youngest Robin currently, and he holds the Robin mantle. And the one that looks like is playing Robin in this game is actually the OG Robin, who's known in the comics as Red Robin. And he's crazy. He's the actual trapeze guy. Mm-hmm. The one that had the family that died in the circus and shit.
Yeah, he's the one from Batman and Robin the movie. The greatest movie of all time, featuring one of the greatest performances we'll ever see in our lifetimes by Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. Yeah. Regardless, in this new version of Gotham, the patriarchy's gone, Broadcaster Nickels, because we are now led by a strong woman who has taken Batman's suit off of his lifeless corpse that she recovered from Wisconsin yesterday. She had to take it to the dry cleaner. But the rioters were very courteous not to firebomb it. They kept it clean.
Well, I'll tell you, if this was fucking New Jersey, they would have firebombed it, all right? You know what I'm saying?
Down in ocean shores, where real men do real things.
Under bridges, under piers, shady piers, children.
Gotham Knights is an interesting game because it shows almost no gameplay in the trailer, and what we do see is a bunch of nonsense, basically. It's Batman giving a speech saying, "If you found this, I'm dead, because Antifa decided that I wasn't good enough to live." And Batgirl was like, "Yes, finally, I've been waiting for that old fucker to die." And it just instantly goes to her and her boys up on a roof, staring at the distance saying, "It's time to woke this place up." And what do? They target Mr. Freeze. And Mr. Freeze, so powerful. He is so powerful in this game that he literally drops the frame rate of the trailer with his gun. All right? That is what I call peak male performance, Broadcaster Nickels. What say you?
Well, if he's not voiced by a fucking juiced up Austrian, then I'm out. That's all I'm about.
Yeah, I know. I watch a show called Gotham. You might have heard of it. It's a TV show based off of Batman.
Oh yeah, Mr. Freeze was in that. He was actually done pretty well.
He was done well, but I didn't like his voice. I like the actor. I didn't like the actor's voice. I just wanted to superimpose Arnold on top of it, but with the actor. I think it would have worked well. I think Arnold would have been 100% on board.
I think what's funny about Gotham, let's get to the chase. Gotham Knights looks good if you're into those games. The Arkhamverse, I think it's referred to.
Arkhamverse, get the fuck out.
Well, I think it's going to be the 4th game in the Arkhamverse, right? So at this point, it is a warranted term at this point. There's 4 games that are supposedly all in some type of continuum. Mm-hmm. So nonetheless, it looks good-ish. I'm not into those games, but I'm not going to say it looks like trash. I just think it's funny that when there's just so much potential in comics, you know, it whoever is doing the storytelling or what producers scope of comics they have, it's just so it's disappointing because they're like, let's have Batman's dead, so we're just gonna have the fucking 3 Robins and Batgirl. That's just it's just so lame, dude. It's just like if there was one Robin you were playing as and it was a rich story where you kind of like learned why there were 3 Robins and maybe you could figure out the feud between the 3 or the 4 or whatever, and then you could also be Batgirl and actually give her some space to breathe. But at this point, when I see that game, I'm just like, all right, well, none of those characters are going to get the story they deserve or the attention they deserve. And on top of that, they're focusing on the least interesting one, Batgirl, you know? But the only time Barbara Gordon, to me, has been interesting, and I think I'm getting this right. I might be confused because my knowledge is kind of limited with this, but she's the one in The Killing Joke. The one that fucking Joker takes out, you know, the one that becomes Oracle or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's her.
It is.
That's the only time her character has become interesting to me. Like, and I'm not saying that's because she got shot. I'm just saying, like, that's when she was actually given some type of special attention and gave her some type of like interest in the story or the universe of Batman. Before then, she was just some pitiful side character that was severely underutilized. And now it's like they're putting her on the pedestal, like she can roll with fucking Nightwing and the OG Robin in Red Hood. I mean, none of it makes sense. Red Hood wouldn't work with those 3, first of all. Red Hood's a psychopath. He's just kind of a renegade. Lone wolf, if you will.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know about this whole Gotham Knights business. You know, I like Gotham Days. What's wrong with the daytime, Broadcaster Nickels?
Day man.
The Nightman does indeed cometh, and he cometh for, God, this game's soul. I think this game has sold out. It looks just like that Avengers game that just came out that was hot garbage. Did you see that, by the way, where
that game is trash.
Dude, that game is so trash. It's like meta. It's trash on a meta level. They have QuickTime events, and if you fail the QuickTime event, it just pauses the game until you press it.
Yeah.
I
saw it.
Is holy fuck. Holy fuck levels of bad game design I have not seen since E.T. for Atari.
I saw. Yeah, there's plenty of memes on the internet. It's pretty bad. I don't even know how that game left the studio. I don't know how they sent that out. Like, they must have been under an incredible amount of pressure to push that out.
Well, it's the Avengers. They just print money, right? That's what it is.
But that just goes to show you, like, my theory on that is, this hot take, put the tinfoil hat on here, that with this pandemic business, Marvel saw the future with their numbers and stuff. That's why the rumors are floating around with that whole anti-SJW narrative coin flip type situation where supposedly they're getting rid of all these woke people or whatever. Nonetheless, I think in a more realistic terms, they were kind of reading the tea leaves with this type of situation, you know? And they were just like, well, I think we're just going to not do that.
Yeah.
And we're just going to push this out right now because it has Marvel on it, right? And people are going to buy it no matter what. But before the pandemic, I think they were going to delay that game again. They were probably of the typical mindset of Marvel, you know, where it was just like, we are never going to allow this to release in the state it's in with our name on it, you know, now with the prestige of Marvel movies now. Yeah. But I think they kind of read the tea leaves on this one. They're just like, well, we're going to need to make some money because a lot of our movies are about to be put on the back burner or come out and be hot trash like we knew they were going to be hot trash, and that's why we were waiting on them for so long.
Yeah. And Gotham Knights, it has like a nice glossy coat of paint on top of it, but I have a feeling we're in for a very similar experience to that Avengers game that just came out. I have a feeling it's going to be rushed, not anything on the level of Arkham Asylum or Arkham City, any of those games. I don't think it's even going to touch any of them. No, I don't, because those games were monumental. They're monolithic.
It's the same studio, right?
I don't know if it is the same studio or not, but I'll tell you right now, that trailer did not give me vibes from the previous installments at all. It gave me vibes of that new Avengers game, though. It gave me all of the 2020 vibes you'd expect from a comic book property, but it did not give me the Arkham City vibe at all.
Damn. Yeah, I don't really play those games, so I just figured it was just a new version of Arkham City or Arkham Asylum or...
Well, they changed a lot, like in the beginning.
Arkham Knights.
The very first game, it was just Arkham Asylum and you were just in the asylum. And basically it was less action and more detective gadgety stuff. Like when you played as Batman, you were doing a lot of like weird detective stuff with little devices and lots of puzzles and stuff. And then the action was kind of a sidebar. As the games progressed, it became much more action-centric, and they were still really good. I think it was Arkham City, the one with Scarecrow. That one was really good. Like, that one, I remember the first time I played it, I got goosebumps. Like, you're in the Batmobile traveling through Arkham City, approaching Scarecrow, and he has, like, this big gas cloud in the sky that takes the form of his face, and he starts talking to you from the sky. It's just, like, really fucking sick. A really good game. I don't think for 2 seconds that Gotham Knights is going to be even a quarter of what I've experienced in the past from these games. I didn't even know that it was supposed to tie into those games. I had no idea it was a follow-up.
I don't think it... I might be confused here because there's 2 games coming out. There's Gotham Knights that we're talking about right now, and then there's another game that's coming out parallel to it. And one's canon and one's not. One's actually part of this Arkham verse and the other one's not.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know which one's which, but for the purposes of this game, we are going to be playing an exciting role as Batgirl as we go to the docks and we fight Mr. Freeze, and he freezes us, and then lightning appears, and apparently Robin has superpowers. This is going to be the new era, Broadcaster Nickels. No longer will we have to deal with a powerless, lame circus boy, Robin. Oh no. He has absorbed the powers of the guy from Infamous, and now he can truly be a superhero.
So you saw that too?
Also a simp to Batgirl. What are the odds, Broadcaster Nickels? How many of these Robins will simp for Batgirl? Will it be 1, 2, 3, or the dark horse pick 4? Batman's still alive, and he's simping for Batgirl.
Oh, dude. This is going to be just one giant simp fest. Are you kidding me? It's going to start out with just the Robin trio simping hard for Batgirl, right?
Mm.
And then they're going to get to, Mr. Freeze, and he's going to be like, my wife's dead, but I don't know. I really like your stream. Can I subscribe to your OnlyFans account, Batgirl?
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna be like, absolutely, get in line with the Robins, bitch. And then they're gonna go to the Court of Owls, right? And the Court of Owls is gonna be like, yo, dude, we killed your dad, bro, or you're whatever he is to you guys. I don't give a flying fuck. He's gonna be like aggressive like that, yo, right? And then Batgirl's gonna be like, I'm about to cry. I can't believe that. And then her simp army is gonna like come out right in front, be like, yo, we're the Robins. I can't believe you're doing that to our princess, bitch. What's up? And then they're gonna like open up one of those coffins, and it's gonna be like Bruce Wayne's dead body, and they're gonna like, ha, got you, bitch. And then they're gonna rotate it, and then the other one's gonna be Owlman, who'd be like, I killed your father. Now fight me, secret boss status.
Yeah, in the trailer, the only real interesting part of that entire trailer to me was like the Matrix coffins at the end. And so you think it's the Court of Owls and that maybe Owlman's coming out of one of those coffins.
That's definitely Owlman.
His eyes definitely looked like it.
Well, it could be Talon as well. So in the Court of Owls, in the limited comics with the Court of Owls I've read, there's a figure in the Court of Owls that they send out to assassinate people, and it's called the figure's name's Talon, but multiple people have been Talon. And that might be their rendition, their version of Talon. But typically, that's not what the Talon I've seen looks like. It looks more like Owlman's getup. And Owlman is a Batman from a separate universe, I think, but is connected to the Court of Owls. So it's not the Court of Owls that's in Batman's universe. I don't know. It's weird.
Too many universes, too little time.
Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about this game. It looks like hot garbage to me. What say you, Broadcaster?
Play it. No. There's no way I'm going to play it.
You're just done with it already.
Oh, I would never. Honestly, you know what the saddest thing is? Kind of off topic, but kind of relevant, is that comic-based IPs are typically something I really look forward to, whether it's comics or movies. But when it comes to video games, they tragically fall short almost every single time. And I've gotten to the point in my life where it's just like Batman games aren't even on my radar. I'll see it and I'll just be like, I don't give a flying fuck about it. Even though I'm excited about a new comic that would drop, I don't really care about the video game.
Speaking of underperformance, are you ready to get to our preview of New Mutants?
You go blow my nose.
What's that? You want more Crack Cellar? This is good. Join your lords on Twitter at The Crack Cellar and Facebook.com/The Crack Cellar.
Hey, you over there. Are you a straight-up Chad or a strong woman? Well, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and your favorite podcasting app. Or, if you're a straight-up beta cuck, find us on YouTube with the rest of the Cloud Chasers. And we're back with our preview of New Mutants. And Broadcaster Nickels, Bob McLeod, is pissed. Did you know, Broadcaster Nickels, that this is a special occasion on the Crack Cellar Podcast? This is the first time we have ever previewed something that's already out.
Cannot compute.
This movie, New Mutants, came out yesterday, as of recording, it came out yesterday. And Bob McLeod is not happy about it. And Broadcaster Nickels, if you had to guess why he isn't happy about this movie, what would be your guess? Just throw one on the dartboard real quick. What he was so mad about.
It's not diverse enough.
Ding, 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 ding. Winner.
Hold on. Can I take back my answer?
So for those who don't know, Bob McLeod
is not compelling enough. That's what I wanted to say.
All right, Broadcaster Nickels, you're drunk. Go home, Broadcaster Nickels. Bob McLeod is the co-creator of New Mutants, the original co-creator. But that's kind of a misnomer.
Co-creator.
Because let's be honest, Chris Claremont created X-Men, and he created New Mutants too. Bob McLeod was the original artist of the New Mutant comic books that came out in the 80s. And let's be real about this shit. He only did the art for the first fucking comic book. He outsourced it starting with book 2, Broadcaster Nickels.
Well, he didn't. That's not how it works. He didn't do it. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
This guy barely even has a fucking finger scratch on fucking the New Mutants. And he comes out on day one, fucking grandiose. Ooh, God, they whitewashed my show. I don't like this. They made it dark and scary, and they didn't respect my art style. And
did he actually use the words his show?
No, I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because that would be super naive.
I'm paraphrasing. I'm just saying that this guy has no fucking right. He is barely, like, him calling him a co-creator it's technically true, but not really. It's bullshit. He knows it. I know it. Everyone knows it. And he has the gall to come out here and just be like, oh yeah, this sucks. You know, there's no excuse in 2020 to whitewash our characters. And, oh my God, you spelled my name wrong in the credits. Oh, dude, I read this story and I just wanted to rip my fucking hair out. This is why the comic book movie industry is so fucked, is because of douchebags like Bob McLeod.
Oh, for sure. It's plagued with them.
It is. And luckily, the director of New Mutants is not a fan of Bob McLeod. He's a fan of the real artists everyone actually knows and loves from New Mutants. And I don't really fucking know this guy's name. I mean, I know it, but I can't pronounce it. It's one of those weird fucking names. It's like Cienquist.
I think it's Shinkwitz.
Shinkwitz, there we go. I don't know how to fucking pronounce that guy's name. But he is actually the artist that people like from New Mutants. And he's also the artist who did the books that everyone loves, that the movie is based off of.
Yeah.
And that, my friends, is why Bob McLeod is really butthurt. Because they clearly ditched this guy. And like, this dude ain't shit. We're going with the real guy. And he got butthurt over it. And that's the whole reason he came out 2 hours after the movie came out and let this little tirade. It's fucking childish bullshit.
Par for the course. I'm not surprised by it at all, especially if you fucking listen to these, the people in the industry's Twitter accounts. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. It's the dumpster fire.
Yeah, and Bob McLeod would fit in right well with Blue Checkmark Twitter. He wants in really bad, but he's not cool enough, so he has to like virtue signal.
This was probably his way to get verified.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And luckily for us, the director of this movie does not give two shits about Bob McLeod, and instead base this movie off the Demon Bear saga. Broadcaster Nickels, what do you know about the Demon Bear saga?
Sounds like one of my peyote trips back in '96, but that's another story.
That would have been highly illegal, not only for you, but for our mother as well. I just gave him peyote. That's natural, right? It's organic. Ma'am, that's not how that works.
It actually is very organic.
Yeah, so the Demon Bear saga is considered the best saga for New Mutants. I'm not a huge New Mutants fan myself, although Legion comes from New Mutants originally, which is one of the reasons I do like New Mutants, and also the X-Force. I'm much more a fan of the X-Force, which comes after New Mutants and involves Cable and fucking Bishop. I'm much more
X-Force is more futuristic X-Men.
Yeah.
Based in the future.
Yeah, and so the New Mutants, it's supposedly like people describe as like, oh no, the New Mutants was very progressive. You know, it was, you know, they had lots of people of color and it was very diverse culturally. And to that, I say kind of, but not in the way you're saying it. So let's take a step back. The New Mutants was diverse in the way that a Quentin Tarantino movie is diverse. It's not, but you could make the argument if you're stupid.
Yeah.
Sure. There's an Indian girl who, does mind tricks, and there's a British girl that turns into a werewolf. Sure. There's a Brazilian guy that can make his crotch go on fire. Sure. There's some diversity. Okay. But this was not woke. This comic book was not woke. If you read the dialogue and the words of the New Mutants, there was no fucking SJW shit in the New Mutants.
Didn't look SJW, that's for sure. Fucking no. Magic looked. I was really surprised how much justice they did to Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa! I instantly knew it was Magic as soon as I saw the actor. So I was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you're gonna see a lot of the blue checkmark Twitter try and either if this is an SJW movie, you're gonna see blue checkmark Twitter latch onto and say, oh, it was always progressive to begin with. And if it's not an SJW movie, and by the fact that Bob McLeod is really pissed off at the movie. I'm going to say it's not an SJ.
McLeod.
Yeah, McLeod. Because he's so pissed, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is probably not a woke movie. And so I am going to say that instead of going that route, they're going to come out and say, oh, the New Mutants is just a alt-right dog whistle for color blindness. Everyone is colorblind. No one talks about race. They're not acknowledging racism. This is literally the Third Reich. What say you, Broadcaster Nickels?
I think that's adequate approximation of what the future might behold.
Bro, they're calling it whitewashed. Why are they calling it whitewashed? This is why they're calling it whitewashed, because sunspot. Anything south of fucking 5 out of 6 people being people of color is fucking whitewashed. bro, it's Sunspot. That's their problem. And why? Sunspot is supposed to be a Brazilian person of color, a POC, a Braspoc, if you will. And guess what, Broadcaster Nickels? Sunspot is played by a Brazilian actor, but guess what, Broadcaster Nickels? He's not black enough. That's right. We are so far.
Isn't black.
We are so far into the. No, he wasn't. He was never black. He was just sort of dark skinned in a very esoteric way. He was Brazilian. That's what he was. That's who he was. And they cast a fucking Brazilian actor to play him, and it's not good enough for the woke mob. Why? Because it's never good enough. And it never will be good enough.
It's so stupid. Dude, he's one of, I think, what's his name? Roberto Acosta or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really cool mutant. He actually he took over AIM. Remember AIM? The evil organization?
Mm-hmm.
He took him over like Doom, dude. And was like, nah, dude, this is my organization now. And we're not really going to do any of that shit anymore. I'm just going to move us off to an island, and we're going to be a technological haven, and I'm going to have my own Avengers squad, and we're going to do cool shit. He did that for a minute. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
There's an artist I'm trying to think of, too. I think it was the artist that got really famous for doing the Mighty Thor comics, which introduced the death of Jane Foster's the Thor, the female Thor. But the artist that made that comic, I think he also did these Avengers comics I'm talking about, and dude, they made Sunspot look dope, dude. Yeah. He had like this. He was pure black, like he always, like when his powers are fully on, he's like pure black, and he kind of has that yellow aura coming off him. But in the art, it was like these black molecules were like disintegrating off. It was super dope. It was really well done.
Yeah, Sunspot is a pretty prolific mutant. He's definitely crossed the range.
I think he's Omega level, isn't he? He might not be Omega level, but he might.
No, I'm not sure if he is or not. I'm not privy to that information. That's in the Crack Cellar vault that only you have the key to. But Sunspot is definitely like a cool mutant, and I'm glad he's in this movie. And one thing I find interesting about this movie is it has the original lineup for the New Mutants with one very key exception: magic.
Me karma.
Karma dies early on in the New Mutants. And basically, Mirage takes over as leader, who, by the way, is being played by one Arya Stark, which I find very interesting. That was one of the things that drew me to the New Mutants when I first saw the promos like a few years ago when they first started trickling out. I thought Arya Stark, I think her name's Maisie Williams, great, interesting casting choice for Mirage. It doesn't look like her from the comic books, but like, it's just a really interesting portrayal. I think I like going like with a little midget girl.
Yeah, I don't know. That's one of those characters again that's kind of changed over time. But there's like one particular artist that I thought got her really cool. The one that turned her into like the Indian, like Pocahontas looking chick. That was really I mean, well, let's be honest. She's always kind of had that native vibe or whatever, because that's her ethnicity. But there's one particular one that made her look super cool. Like she had a bear necklace on, and like I remember she had like the shielded armor pad and
that's
stuff.
The guy that this is all based off of. Or whatever. He took over, like, I want to say he took over around like issue 10. Like, it wasn't super early, but it was pretty early. And his art style was way different, and it's beloved. People love his art style like that. Like, when you think of the New Mutants, if you read the New Mutants, you think of his art style, not Bub McNude's.
People are complaining about Sunspot's actor, but they're not complaining about Mirage?
No, because she's a woman. Women are immune.
Some white Brit
dude.
Is playing.
It's not going to last much longer either. I'm telling you right now. Like, the immunity for white women in this whole wokeism shit, it's fading quick. She might be the last woman in, honestly. Like, it's going to be over soon. But yeah, people are pissed about Sunspot being not a dark enough Brazilian, even though he's a fucking Brazilian actor. It's just...
But Sunspot's not even that dark. He's never been that dark. No, he gets dark. That's his power.
He
gets
fucking
black.
Blade, all right? He's not Wesley Snipes, guys.
He's not the darkness. He gets dark, but he's not the darkness.
But yeah, I found it interesting that they kind of pushed karma out and pushed magic in before it really should have happened for this movie, which is... maybe it's not totally based off of the Demon Bear saga. Maybe it's like inspired by it, but it's sort of more of a reboot. I'm not sure.
Maybe. Because Karma doesn't die in the comics, right? She leads the team for quite some time.
No, Karma does. Well, okay.
She comes back, right? She like loses a leg or something. Remember, she come back and she's missing a leg or something like that? And like everyone's like, oh my God, Karma's alive.
Here's what I'll say. From my perspective, because I stopped reading comic books before she came back. So from my perspective, Karma died and she never came back. I think you're right that later on she did come back, but I wasn't reading comics at that point, so I have no knowledge of that. But when she died originally, they made it seem like she was dead. It wasn't like, oh, she's going off on a mission and maybe we'll see you again someday. She died, in the terms of the comic I read.
Like the original fucking Nick Fury. I'm just going to go to the wall, man. Have the job. Here are the keys. Bye. All right, dude. Peace.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to try to round this IP into their actual canon. Because now they announced that what's his name to play Daredevil is actually going to probably come back to play Daredevil in the movies.
Whoa, really?
Yeah,
I'm down with that.
Yeah, and then they're doing all those mini series on Disney Plus with Scarlet Witch and the Vision. I think New Mutants is going to somehow get rounded into that and introduce some characters.
That's interesting because I thought it was the opposite. Because New Mutants is the final Fox. X-Men. And I really thought Disney was going to go scorched earth on the Fox X-Men properties. So you're thinking they're going to retain this movie and sort of like build off of it?
Matters how well it does.
You think so? Because Deadpool did really well, and I've heard that Deadpool is fucking nixed. Like, they are not on board.
That's arguable just because of what people come to expect from Deadpool to be financially successful, whereas New Mutants isn't using that crutch of the rated R and the crude humor and stuff. Like, it can be successful on its own merits that can fit within the appropriate PG nature of the Marvel family. Deadpool's not surprising to me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, my biggest concern so far is the fact that Professor X has been replaced by Cecilia Reyes, who, in my opinion, is either the most or one of the most boring X-Men of all time. Replacing Professor X, who is fucking Professor X. So, I'm not encouraged by that. I think it was just done for wokeness, personally, because Cecilia Reyes, really? Like, her claim to fame is that the Shadow King tried to trick her once, and she resisted it. That's it. Like, that's the most prolific thing she ever did, is resist the Shadow King in one issue of a comic book. She sucks. She is
Who is this?
She's like an SJW character. She's like a doctor that is, they try and recruit her into the X-Men, and she's like too good for the X-Men. She's like, no, I don't like the way you guys do things, and blah, 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 blah. And then like she gets like some like really
sounds like a smart woman. I mean, from the outside, Professor X probably looks like a cult leader. She's probably like, nah, I'm good. I'm not joining your school of special kids.
Yeah. Well, if I recall correctly, the whole reason she ended up changing her mind and joining the X-Men is because she like suffered some super stereotypical racist attack, and it was like a proto SJW moment before the SJW movement sort of took motion in popular culture.
Wow, someone called me the N-word in Brooklyn today, and you know what? I think I'm going to join you, Professor X.
Yeah. And her character was always like lecturing, like she was always like lecturing X-Men, like why like they weren't the best, and why like it was just like she was an SJW prototype, totally. And she was super uninteresting. And she cannot carry water for Professor X, and Professor X should be the guy. And like in the New Mutants, Professor X was the guy. He was the teacher. He was like the professor, He was the guy who wrapped around the team and he guided them. He's not in this movie. And instead we have Cecilia Reyes, who I'm sure Bob McLeod is very happy with.
McLeod.
What say you, Broadcaster Nickels?
I mean, I don't know who this Cecilia Reyes is. You're the one that told me about this bitch and the context of her upbringing. She's not a familiar name to me at all. Yeah. In fact, when you first said her name, I thought she was just some side hoe, Professor X, because Professor X got a lot of side hoes. Let's be real here. Fucking Legion.
She deserved to be Cecilia. Cecilia Reyes deserved to be a side hoe, but she was propped up, broke through the glass ceiling with her drill that will pierce the heavens, and instead here we are left with...
this demon bear, it sounds like some type of umbral like projection, or is it like an entity in itself, and like almost like the demon or the Yellow King? Like
kind of that, and that's one thing I was going to say, is that the Demon Bear saga was sort of a precursor to Legion. And the way that the Demon Bear is portrayed in this is basically a cognate manifestation. Basically, the Demon Bear was a really evil character. Like it would tell, I murdered your parents, and now I'm going to murder you too. And again, sort of some Legion vibes, right?
Yeah.
To me, this Demon Bear saga really was the precursor. And I don't know if this is like true or like a real fact, but to me, it seems like this Demon Bear saga was a total precursor to Legion, because Legion was introduced, I think, like only 10 issues later. Like it wasn't much longer past where Legion was introduced.
Funny how I said Cecilia is a side hoe and Legion comes in.
Yeah, but it's interesting because you look at the New Mutants, and the New Mutants was a weird comic book, because you had the X-Men, which was, you can call it sci-fi because, the Sentinels and Apocalypse and Cable, and like there's a lot of aspects of X-Men you say, yeah, that's sci-fi. But it wasn't really sci-fi, right? The X-Men wasn't really sci-fi. The New Mutants had a much stronger tinge of sci-fi to it. There was a lot of just really weird, like, teleportation type stuff, going into space, going into alternate dimensions and shit. Again, another precursor.
Got their feet off
to
the
Legion.
Ground a little bit.
Yeah. And they're going to take this kind of weird sci-fi offshoot of X-Men, and they're going to turn it into a straight-up horror movie. That is what I've heard, that this movie is a straight-up horror movie. Do you believe that, Broadcaster Nickels? Because I am skeptical as fuck.
I mean, it didn't seem... now you're making me wonder a little bit, because the trailer I thought was just kind of like thrillerish. I didn't think it was going to be a horror. So you're thinking the Demon Bear is going to be some like nightmarish entity that's haunting the New Mutants?
I don't know. I'm not really convinced that it's going to be exactly the same. I don't think they have the balls to do it exactly the same. And I also don't think they have the balls to turn the Demon Bear into a real horror movie, because the Demon Bear was fucking scary in the comic books. He was drawn in a way, it reminds me of Attack on Titan a little bit. Like some of the Titans you would see in Attack on Titan that were kind of creepy and gave you like horror vibes. That's sort of what Demon Bear was like in a weird 80s way. Turning him into a horror movie villain in the New Mutants, I love the idea, but it seems too good to be true. I just don't believe they have the kahunas to do it. And also, I believe this movie is rated PG-13. So you have that.
Wait a minute, it's rated PG-13?
I believe so.
What?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was PG-13.
How the fuck are you gonna even do something remotely scary at PG-13? I don't know. I was hoping, like, when you were telling me it was going to be like a horror, I was like, all right, maybe it's going to be more like Legion, your first season of Legion.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that, unfortunately, I don't think they got the juice to do what they should have done with this, and I have a feeling we're going to end up getting like a sort of like middle school version of a horror movie. You know what I'm saying?
That's what 2020 deserves.
But I do kind of wonder if Deadpool or X-Force will tie into this, because for me, I don't believe that this is a direct adaptation. So that means that there's no real rules on who they introduce when and where or what. Deadpool was the biggest thing for Fox X-Men until recently, till Disney purchased it, right? So like if you're talking about like the biggest thing going for Fox in terms of X-Men, it was Deadpool. So you would think naturally they would want to tie Deadpool in to make more money, right? To increase interest.
You might be onto something there. I mean, the one thing that Marvel does really well is they pay homage to like the true nature of most of the IPs out there, you know? So if I could see them doing some 4D chess move like that, where they cancel Deadpool's standalone movies, let New Mutants play out, see if it's successful. If it is, do another spin-off off of that, and do like an old school homage to New Mutants where they like Deadpool stops by, and you know, maybe even the X-Force gets introduced or something like that.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool, to be honest. That'd be really fucking cool, to be honest.
Yeah, it would be, but for some reason I doubt that's going to happen.
And get fucking Kevin Bacon back for fucking Sebastian Shaw and the Hellfire Club. Like, seriously, man.
And that leads
was
me
a fucking home run.
It was, and that leads me to my next thought on this movie is, will the Hellfire Club be involved? Will one Sebastian Shaw make an appearance in this movie, or perhaps Emma Frost? What do you think about that?
I hope so. I don't know exactly how they tie into New Mutants exactly. I mean, maybe some of the New Mutants eventually join the Hellfire Club or vice versa or something like that. I'm not too educated on that, but the way they do, well, I should say the way Fox did their series, Marvel series IPs, I really liked it. And if we're kind of talking about, you know, some 4D chess move with Marvel canceling Deadpool to maybe eventually use in a successful version / spin-off of Fox's New Mutants, I'd like to see them do that with other groups like the Hellfire Club and, like we said previously, the X-Force and stuff like that. That'd be really cool to get those, maybe even Legion coming back and getting a treatment like that.
Yeah, it would be. So the Hellfire Club was involved with the New Mutants around the same time the Demon Bear saga happened. So it makes sense chronologically that they could be involved, but not directly. It's really hard to say what direction they'd go. But if they do go in that direction, I think we both agree that Kevin Bacon must be involved.
Absolutely.
Do you think this is the last non-Disney X-Men? Do you think that the X-Men will be held by Disney till the day we die? Or do you think that it's possible that X-Men will be set free before we enter our cold graves?
I mean, I've only been alive for 30 years, and only in 10 of those years have the Marvel IP been successful in the big screen. And they've been around a lot longer than that. So, that being said, time is a wicked and fickle mistress. So, who knows? We can be 10 years out from now, be 40 years old, and it could be garbage. And people are having bidding wars over the IP to see who wants it for pennies on the dollar. And we can have a new franchise. It's called the Alien franchise. And everyone loves it, and everyone's super cool and chill, and everyone smokes weed. That's a world I want to live in.
Yeah, well, on that note, Broadcaster Nickels, do you give New Mutants a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or the dreaded side thumb?
I give it a thumbs up.
An enthusiastic thumbs up.
Who made that man a gunner? That looks promising to me.
I'm going to give it a side thumb. I think that the trailer itself makes me not excited. But the source material and the fact that Bob McLeod doesn't like it gives me hope. So I'm gonna give it a wobbly side thumb. Maybe it's creeping up a little bit. Maybe it's creeping down a little bit. Who knows? But Broadcaster Nickels, are you ready to move on to our review of Bill and Ted Face the Music?
Most excellent.
And we're back with our review of Dean Parisot's Bill and Ted Face the Music. And the creators of this movie describe it as the following. Yet to fulfill their rock and roll destiny, the now middle-aged best friends, William, Bill S. Preston Esquire, and Theodore Ted Logan, set out on a new adventure when a visitor from the future warns them that only their song can save life as we know it. Broadcaster Nickels, that is one of the most cliched hypnosises I've ever read in my life, and on top of that, the visitor from the future sucks, and I hate her, and I wish she wasn't in the movie. What do you think?
You know when a salesman comes up to you, and you're used to a salesman. You're like, they're going to try to sell me something. But you know what they're, in that particular instance, that what they're trying to sell you is that one item that everyone's trying to sell. They're trying to get it off the lot, or it's on the clearance, whatever. They're going to get the highest commission for it. You just get that vibe, you're like, I'm getting fucking sold a lemon right now. That's the vibe I got as soon as I saw that bitch's face.
I know. It almost ruined the movie for me. I really hate her. Her name's Kristen Schaal, and she plays a character in this movie that I find to be the worst character in the entire movie. And I hate the actress.
Hard.
I hate the actress. Yeah, I know. I hate the actress that plays her on top of it. But I don't think that she's in it so little that it's okay. It's a good thing that she's in it as little as she is, because every time she was on screen, I wanted to hurl.
Well, I'm not going after her too much. I'll just concentrate on the acting in the movie as a whole. I think there was very few good actors. The only good actors were reoccurring actors. And one was dead in a hologram. So that's not saying much for that's not saying much for some of these professionals they like to call themselves. I was really unimpressed with just I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old, but it was super kiddie and poppy and modern and just neutered.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Bill and Ted.
It is, but it's like if you took Bill and Ted and you put them into a meat grinder and you pulled out like ground chuck with 4% metal instead of 20% metal that it used to have, you know? Like it's the healthy version that no one wants. Doesn't taste as good. It's unfortunate. It's not your grandpappy's Bill and Ted, is it? I remember we were talking about in the preview about this movie, and we were like, I wonder if they're going to say the word faggot like they did 80 times in Bogus Journey. Fact check, true. They did not say faggot once in this movie. They didn't say anything even remotely edgy at all. This is the least edgy sequel you could possibly imagine to Bill and Ted.
No, edgy isn't the word I'm looking for. I would say commandeered is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's like kind of a chink in the armor for like your hopes of Matrix 4 too, because you're kind of like thinking, man, Keanu Reeves will only do good sequels, so I trust in Keanu Reeves' judgment. But then you see this, and I'm not going to say this is a bad sequel per se, but it's not what you wanted. Like you're not going to leave this movie saying, this is exactly what I wanted, because it definitely wasn't. For any real Bill and Ted fan.
Yeah, I mean, Keanu and what's the other guy's name?
Alex
Do you know
Winter.
his name? Alex Winter. Winter's acting, surprisingly, I thought was better than Keanu's.
It was, yeah.
For sure. Like that was one of the first things I noticed was how well he was acting for not been in the game for so long. Especially in reflection to all the rest of the actors.
Yeah.
The other thing what I really noticed, and unfortunately it seems to be a common thing, and you know, maybe I'm just a bigot for this, but there was a lot of females. Like it was just it kind like I said earlier, when you feel like you're getting sold a lemon, soon as I saw a female after female after female after female after female after female, I was just like, oh, okay, I get it now. Mm-hmm. This is going to be woman saves the day. And, you know, I would say I'm not too far off.
No, definitely not. You're gonna get some of the same 2020 vibes you've been getting from all the other movies that you were hoping to escape with a Bill and Ted sequel, unfortunately. But I will say it's not as bad as it could have been. There was a lot of room for improvement in this movie that they didn't quite take the dive on. So I'm happy at least for that. But
it wasn't as shitty as it could have been in some areas, but it definitely was shitty as it could have been in a lot of areas.
Let's just put it like this. This is not a Jay and Silent Bob reboot scenario. This is not that bad.
No.
And like when I think of the Bill and Ted movie and what to compare it to, Jay and Silent Bob is almost a direct comparison. Like they're almost the same type of movie.
Did way better in comparison.
Yeah. So we're not down into like the deepest dregs of hell, but we're definitely not up in the heavens either. They made this movie so much more kid friendly. It's amazing. Like it's rated PG-13. I think that they almost could have gotten away with PG, dude.
Oh, for sure. It
was close as fuck to PG.
Yeah, super. I'm surprised it couldn't pass as PG, to be honest.
The biggest disappointment I can say without spoiling anything is the fact that they just gutted the soundtrack. coming off of Bogus Journey, which if you listen to the OST of Bogus Journey, it's like an all-star album of metal from the 80s / late 80s, early 90s, that whole era of metal. It's just like it is an amazing soundtrack. And then you come to this movie and holy shit, Broadcaster Nickels, there is a lot of pop music in this movie.
Yeah.
Not just pop music, folk music. Just lots of weird types of music.
Would you say it's a diverse soundtrack?
It is a diverse soundtrack. Dude, I'm not fucking joking right now. One of the songs that plays in the credits of this movie, I heard it in a fucking Verizon Wireless commercial a few years ago. I'm not joking around right now. When I heard that and I realized that, it was like that old commercial from back in the day where someone would litter and like an Indian on the side of the road would turn at the camera and like one tear would come down his eye. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's what happened to me when I heard the Verizon Wireless commercial song in the credits.
Hey man, they ran out of money. It's royalty-free music, bro. Dude. Get over it.
It was fucking heartbreaking. And it's just like, not just there though. The entire soundtrack is littered with like this weird like hipster pop music where you're just like, what the fuck? Where is Iron Maiden at? Like what are we listening to right now? It was clearly an attempt to try and reach to like the modern millennial audience or whatever. It was really sad.
Yeah, I believe it. But I really didn't like this movie. I won't lie. There was one part in the movie that I liked a lot.
And I guarantee you I know what it is, and I also like it a lot.
I couldn't believe it because like the whole movie I'm just like, man, X. I'm like doing all these like I'm hoping to get a check on one of these boxes, and it's just bad. And then we get to this certain part in the movie, and I just couldn't believe how funny it got for I'd say about 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes, and I was hoping it was going to last forever, and then it ended as quick as it started.
Yeah, and part of that is because this is a very short movie. It was less than an hour and a half. The total runtime without the credits was like $1.20. It was a short fucking movie. So 5 minutes is actually a lot for such a short movie. And I'm very thankful for those 5 minutes because I laughed really, really hard.
I did. I literally went from not laughing at all to tearing up.
Yeah. I want to spin off just with what we're talking about right
Absolutely. It saved the movie.
Yes, it did. And one thing that didn't save the movie is the cartoonish CG effects that totally looked like they were made by the same dude who did the effects in the 2016 all-woman Ghostbusters reboot. Remember how like cartoony and weird those effects looked? Like the Slimer?
I never watched it.
No, from the trailer. I didn't watch that shit either, but you saw the trailer, right?
Nope.
Oh shit, that's wholesome. You're pure. I respect that. I did watch the trailer.
Like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, bitch.
I did watch the trailer for the 2016 reboot, and the CG effects in it looked super cartoony, like something that would be done on Nickelodeon. Like it was just really cartoony, bad CG. And that's sort of what the CG is like in Bill and Ted. It's good, quote unquote, but there's something weird about it. Esoterically cartoony is the best way for me to put it. What do you think?
I mean, I guess I can hear what you're saying. I didn't pay attention to it too much. The only thing that's coming to mind to me is one particular part when, well, I'm not going to say, there's one particular thing I guess I'll get to eventually where something is falling down rapidly and somebody kind of like does this fade in effect. That kind of seemed cheesy.
Yeah.
But I can't think of too many other examples. Like the pod from the trailer of that girl coming out. I forget her name. The one you don't like. Mm-hmm. That didn't seem too bad.
Yeah. some effects are pretty decent, but like I'd say 80% of them are kind of have this weird cartoony vibe. And we'll go into more details about that in the spoiler section. But one thing that I was really amused by is the fact that Orion Pictures still exists. They still apparently own Bill and Ted. And they have not updated their splash effects since the 80s, Broadcaster Nickels. That fucking splash at the beginning of the movie for Orion Pictures is the same one I saw in the 80s.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely...
That's crazy,
They don't do
dude.
They haven't produced anything else, though? You sure they're not just doing a throwback for the movie?
Well, that would be really weird because, like, no one does that. If it was just a throwback, that's like a weird thing that no other movies do.
Bill and Ted 3 is supposed to be special.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but all I know is that I thought Orion Pictures went out of business in the 90s. And when I saw that, I was like, holy fuck, they still exist? But the fact that it was the same CG from the 80s is just like, you can't find that anywhere else. No other production company in Hollywood is using a fucking one of those old 80s splash effects. None of them are. You can't find one.
Well, they're not. Yeah, they're. Well, I mean, there's some kids on TikTok probably that are doing it, but.
Well, kids on TikTok aren't, Hollywood production companies, so I'm not counting them.
What? They're 10 times the fucking production house Hollywood ever be.
Where's my internet money?
This is 2020, bitch. It's TikTok's time. Hollywood's dead.
Yeah.
Down with Goldstein, Weinstein, Epstein. You know how they're all Steens?
Whoa there, Broadcaster Nickels. We are not anti-Semites here at the Crack Cellar.
That is not what I was going for. How dare you?
The kids were a mixed bag, though. Like Ted's daughter and Bill's daughter. What did you think about them? Because I really thought Bill's daughter was a piece of shit, but I really liked Ted's daughter.
Yeah, Ted's daughter was the better of the two. But this is what I will say. Bill's daughter just seemed to, well, I guess they were both overacting to me. It was like crazy how much they were trying to be just like their dads. Even though they're supposed to be kind of like spitting images of them, they could at least be female versions of them.
Mm-hmm.
Not like females literally trying to mimic the mannerisms of their dads. And Ted's daughter did it better, but it still came off as overhandling to me. And Bill's daughter came off as overacting, but just not done well at all. Like that face she made, or made multiple times, where it's kind of just like that dumbfounded face.
Mm-hmm.
That was cringeworthy.
Yeah.
Like, it's... I don't know what the hell was going through the director's head when he was just like, perfect, just like that.
One take, we're done. Yeah, well, if Kristen Shaw's on my number one baddie list, Bill's daughter's number 2. She was the definition of mediocre. Like, there was absolutely nothing that stood out about her performance. It was monotone imitation of Bill in the worst possible way, and her face, and that's one thing I'll say about this movie, is that there are some real red flags with the facial acting. Keanu Reeves has problems with it at a time as well, but many characters do. There's some really weird facial acting in this movie that doesn't fit, and it's just like kind of cringy.
Like they were bored.
Yeah,
I got that vibe from Keanu hardcore.
Mm-hmm. Like Keanu was just there as a favor. That's what this movie, like, really, when you're at the end of the day, when you finish it, you're like, man, Keanu was just doing a favor for his boy. He was not interested.
Maybe he just felt the low T energy from the script and the director and everything all together from the movie, and he's just like, well, I'm just gonna kind of check out then.
Yeah,
I signed the contract, so I can't back out.
I mean, for sure, dude. Like, he was probably like coming off filming John Wick 4, and he comes in to film fucking this new Bill and Ted movie, and it's just like, of course he's bored. He's fucking John Wick, and he shaved his beard off, and he's acting like an idiot.
Yeah, that's the other thing is Keanu Reeves is a very socially awkward guy.
He is.
I've never met the guy. I can just tell from interviews and videos and just the way he handles himself. He's very shy. He's very awkward. That one time he came out on stage to introduce Cyberpunk. Was it Cyberpunk?
Yep.
Or whatever, with the one where he got memed or whatever. He was completely uncomfortable. Someone that's been in multiple movies and seen tons of people in front of him multiple times. That guy came out like it was his first time on the stage.
It's part of what makes him endearing, though, too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what I'm getting to is you might have hit the nail on the head with that one. Is that he shaved his beard off for that movie? I think it was the first time in a long time, because I think he got that beard from John Wick, and he realized he looked good, and he got, people started looking at him a little differently, and he was like, all right, and kind of based his identity on it, like a lot of people do. And then he felt real naked when he shaved it off.
Yeah. Did you notice the princesses got recast yet again? They got recast in every movie. That's crazy.
Makes sense.
The dad made it through all three. Missy made it through all three. But
they're
the princesses,
pretty lame characters.
Yeah. I'm guessing also that the princesses from the original aren't quite looking like princesses anymore. That's just
too much
guess.
coke.
Yeah. That would be my guess, but I just found it amusing, because I remember when I first watched Bogus Journey, one of the first things that stood out is that they recast the princesses, and I was kind of upset about it. And then when I watched this new movie much later in life, I saw that it happened yet again, and I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. There was no questioning of it. I'm like, I know exactly why you did that. I understand. Well, Broadcaster Nickels, do you have any final thoughts before we go into our spoiler section?
My fellow Americans and podcasters, I stand here today to tell you that we are 100% Antifa free, and we are taking donations to upgrade beyond pool noodle, as Tim Dillon would say. Please help us today to upgrade from pool noodle.
With just 5 cents a day, you can prevent Batman from being murdered in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Broadcaster Nickels, I really loved the explanation they gave at the wedding for Missy marrying Ted's little brother. That was such a great way to open this movie. It was like butterfly.
It was legendary. It was fucking legendary. Little did I know at that moment in time that Ted's brother was gonna be fucking the winner of the movie.
Yeah. Oh man, it was so good. It's just like them, like, yeah, like she was, our babysitter, and then like when she was a senior in high school, we both asked her to the prom, and then she married Bill's dad, and then after that she married Ted's dad, and then after that, now today she's marrying Ted's little brother, and that makes Ted's dad actually the dad of Ted's little brother, but also Ted's little brother is now the dad of Ted's dad. It's just like, it was like one of the most legendary opening scenes of a movie ever.
It was, dude. The guy that played Ted's little brother was fucking. He was one of the best actors in the movie.
Oh, I know. He was brilliant.
When he was just like, my little Missy, my little kissy Missy, and she's like, "Don't call me that. Your dad called me that," and he's like, "I'm very aware." And just like just fucking pops his collar.
Missy was not recast. This is the original Missy
dude.
as a fucking 60-year-old woman, man.
There were some legendary parts of this movie, no doubt.
That was one of them. That was one of them. Also, this whole opening scene was great, though. I think the opening scene was one of the better scenes in the entire movie because it ended after they made the speech. They're like, all right, now we're going to do a concert for you where we sing our new song, Man plus Woman equals Love in a Cosmic Place, Volume 7, Part 1. And it turns into like, you're expecting like some metal because that's what Wild Stallions actually played in the first two movies. And instead they start doing like some weird experimental folk song. And fucking Bill just starts doing like some Gojira growls, dude. It's just like, he's just like,
he does like some Zimbabwean fucking throat music is what he does.
Yeah, it was like guttural, like, you're just like, what the fuck is happening right now? I loved that. I think this movie started really strong, and it's sad that it couldn't quite make it to the finish line.
It did. It started strong, and then it fell off a fucking cliff.
Yeah. I think the ending to this movie is one of the worst endings I've ever seen in my life, but we'll get to that.
The middle is a valley of despair.
Yeah, the beginning middle. I like the middle end.
Yeah, well.
But the beginning middle, you're right. Like that, the first half of the middle. Let's put it that way.
I'd say the part where the moment the movie recovered itself is when the robot with self-esteem issues fucking just glazed Ted's dad in the van, and he just kind of like looked off for a second. He was just like, oh no. That was fucking hilarious to me. It was from that moment forward for like the next 10 minutes maybe the movie just really hit its high point.
Yeah. So yeah, the villain of this movie is a robot with self-esteem issues. And so basically what happens is that Kristen Shaw shows up and says, hey, Bill and Ted, you guys are taking too long to make your world-saving song, and we need you to do it right now. Come with me to the future. They come to the future, and
they face the tribunal.
They face the Wakandan woke tribunal with like some of the most bonk ass hairstyle. Dude, did you look at those hairstyles that some of them had? Yeah. Oh my god, dude! It was the most. It's just disgusting.
Would you say they were diverse?
Diversely bad, yes. Also bad. The
Children,
green screen.
Today, the word of the day is diverse.
So the entire future sequence, and there's multiple parts to this future sequence, which is like 2,749 Los Angeles, like 700 years into the future, some shit. All of these scenes are heavy green screen, right? Heavy green screen. Nothing's practical. And some of the scenes is okay, but some of them it's so bad. And I could not help but think, dude, Bogus Journey had them go to the future in the very beginning of the movie, and they did it with practical effects with no green screens, and it looked 8 times better than this bullshit that you're trying to push into this 2020 movie that came out 30 years later.
A lot more of the budget went into the set.
Yeah.
And not the actors' pay.
That is true. But I honestly, every time they went to the future LA, it pulled me out of the movie. I'm like, okay, I'm just watching 2 dudes on a green screen right now. Cool. All right. I'm just sit here until it goes back to a real movie again.
I thought it was funny. One of the green screens in the future, not green screens, one of this CGI backgrounds looked like a Final Fantasy X level. where you were going up to battle Seymour. Like it really, you know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah,
that's the first thing I thought of. I was like, dude, why does this look so? Oh yeah, I was about to go kick Seymour's ass once upon a time up this walkway.
Yeah. Man, yeah. So anyway, back to the point of what I was trying to say. They take him to the future. The woke tribunal says, okay, you've waited too long. We need you to make this song now. And they force them to sit in futuristic LA. They give them all the guitars in the world and all the instruments they need and said, you make this song in like an hour or some shit. I forget exactly what the time period was, but it was like not much time. Like, you need to make this fucking song now. And, they can't make it. They can't even play instruments. Like, it's just total emasculation incarnate. You're just like, oh God, really? They're 50 years old and they didn't learn how to play guitar yet? It makes you sad. Like, it's just a really sad scene. And they're like, I know what we'll do. We'll go into the future and steal the song from ourselves. And they go back to the phone booth that you saw at the very beginning of the future scene, where we saw one of the few good actors in this movie, who is a hologram of a good actor from the 80s. They get in and they travel to the future. At this point, the woke Wakandan council awakens the villain of the movie, who is the robot, who is the villain.
With a legendary intro. To be real here, most of the budget went into this guy's fucking special effects.
Oh yeah, for one thing, his special effect for when he teleports is
with the crystal?
Best. Yeah, that's the best special effect in this entire movie.
No doubt.
For sure. It's the only one where you look at it and you're like, that's cool. Everything else, you're like, it's cartoony, that's tacky. This one's cool. And not only that, this character's cool. This robot is fucking cool. He is the coolest character in the movie. He is written very well.
He is the character that saved the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No doubt. Like, non-negotiable.
Yeah, he was fucking amazing. Early on, he's just like a straightforward villain, like a Terminator sent to kill Bill and Ted. So basically, they awaken this guy because Bill and Ted escape. And they're like, well, we don't got time for this shit. We've also heard that if we kill Bill and Ted, it might save the future as well. So we're going to kill Bill and Ted. And they send this robot after him. That whole plot line doesn't fit with Bill and Ted. It makes absolutely no sense with the backstory of this movie going back to Bogus Journey and Excellent Adventure. It's really bad.
Well, but I thought he was going to replace the Reaper. I thought he was like the Reaper replacement in some odd way. And I also thought he was like, he kind of looks like Frieza from Dragon Ball.
he did, but he definitely didn't have Frieza's attitude.
No. No.
So this robot's basically the villain of the movie from this point on. And at this point, the movie becomes both a reboot and a sequel. Because as soon as Bill and Ted take the phone booth and start kind of doing a sequel to Bogus Journey, that's how I kind of look at their arc, is sort of like a weird sequel to Bogus Journey. The daughters start their own B-plot as a reboot of Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
What a weird movie this is. This is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. For a movie to be both a reboot and a sequel at the same time takes some really weird writing, but they did it. They accomplished it, and I don't know what they accomplished.
That's also a sign of a movie that didn't know what they wanted to do. No. They were relying on every ounce of nostalgia they could muster.
No, there was a lot of that too, but man, it couldn't stop me from just kind of examining the weirdness of this movie. I did kind of like Ted's daughter, though. I really didn't expect to like either of the daughters. I thought they were just going to be, oh, we're putting in these new characters to further the franchise and to appeal to millennials, and, you know, we're going to hand it over to these girls and blah, 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 blah. I didn't really get that vibe, actually, from the movie after it was all said and done. Once it was all said and done, I was like, I don't think that they really wrote this to make a franchise. it felt one and done. You know what I'm saying? It didn't feel
protection from the mob.
You go to the ending, just like the entire movie as a whole, it felt one and done. It did not feel like they were setting this up for like a sequel with the daughters, like just the daughters by themselves.
It did for a minute.
It did for a minute, but like once you take the whole movie in totality, you're like, well, wait a second. This was like a nicely wrapped package. Like it was at a beginning and a middle and an end. There was absolutely no cliffhanger ending at all. It was just like, okay, this was a movie. It happened. It's over.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing seemed like a dog without teeth. You know, like it was Bill and Ted, but there was no edge at all. Like it just, besides the robot, the robot to me was like the only true essence of Bill and Ted left when he fucking apologizes for killing his family, and they're just like, all right, well, you got to kill us to go to hell. And he's just like, no, fuck. He just fucking tries blowing his head off, and then he appears in hell. I died, dude. I fucking died. My name's Dennis McCabe. What's his name?
Yeah. This robot was fucking hilarious. So
Caleb McCoy.
So basically, while the daughters are doing their excellent adventure and they're rounding up the greatest musicians of all time to create a super band to help their dads make the greatest song of all time, literally the exact same plot of Excellent Adventure, like to a T, to the point where it's like plagiarization, like whatever you want to call it. It's just, you're just like, what the fuck? Bill and Ted are going through time to try and steal their song from themselves. And this is one of my favorite parts of the movie, is the various versions of Bill and Ted that they meet in the future. So the first one is like the deadbeat Bill and Ted, who's like playing a dive bar. And like they get into like close to a physical alteration, and like Ted's trying to beat up Ted, and like they're just insulting each other, like, you can satisfy your wife. It's like it was pretty funny. That was one of the first parts that started to make me laugh in the movie since the intro scene.
Bill's like, you always get weird with yourself. You really have to work on that, dude.
Yeah. The Bogus Journey reference. And so like you do that, but you keep going. Like, so you have the deadbeats, and then you have like the Brits, which end up being the deadbeats pretending to be the Brits. And like, it's like this weird like scene where the same deadbeats are in Dave Grohl's mansion, and they hand him a fucking like a Foo Fighters CD. It's like, this is it. This is the greatest song we wrote. and Bill and Ted are like, yeah, this is great. All right, we're done. Let's get out of here. And then Dave Grohl comes to the front door. He's like, what the fuck are you doing in my house? Like, that was great. Like, I loved that part. I loved all the parts with like the Bill and Ted facing the other Bill and Teds. And it kept going to the point where they met their elder versions, like in life support and in an old folks home. And that's where we meet the robot, the villain, who confronts Bill and Ted after murdering their entire families and sending them to hell. And it creates one of the greatest scenes of all time, where he's about to murder them. They're like, no, dude, we have the song. Our old versions of us gave us the song, finally. And he's like, this is awkward.
Well, it's the slow he has the best character creation, because he's introduced as just like the Killbot 5-10,000, you know? It's just like perfect. Yeah, just badass CGI, has like this dope ass teleportation crystal technology, and you're like, okay, well, whenever he shows up, he's gonna fucking just murk down. Ends up just being this slowly self-aware robot that is just going crazy from killing people. You find out he's the what's the word I'm looking for? Reincarnation, or the body that was used to make the robot. is the ex-boyfriend of the chick in the beginning. What's her name? But it's her dead ex-boyfriend.
You're talking about Rufus's daughter.
Yeah, Rufus's daughter. So it's her dead ex-boyfriend that was used as the host for the body. The way they just casually fucking pass that off is just like, my name is Dennis Caleb McCoy. Oh, stop. Mom, did you use my dead boyfriend as the killer robot?
Yeah. This is basically the best character in the entire movie. So basically, after realizing they have the song, he's like, "Oh, this is awkward. I just murdered your entire family." And he's, like, "You sent our daughters to hell." Like, the way they said that too was just so great. Like, that whole scene was perfect. And they're all like, "Well, you need to send us to hell too so we can save him." And the robot's like, well, you guys have the song now, so I don't want to do that. It's the way he delivered his lines was so good. Like, this dude is a great actor. I don't know who the fuck he is, but he is a good actor and he should get more work because
definitely he stole the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, he did. He redeemed this movie quite a bit, because if he wasn't in it, it would have been a much worse movie.
So I was thinking, you were talking about anybody can rock, or you have to earn your ability to rock. Maybe I could do a dance, some type of dance routine. Yeah, you just do a dance routine over there. Oh okay.
Yeah, so Bill and Ted like break the song, like it's on like a thumb drive, and they like break it in half so they don't have it anymore to get him to send them to hell. And they send them to hell, and they find their daughters, and they find Ted's dad. And I like the scene with Ted's dad too, where he's like, "Wait a second, because we're in hell, that means you weren't lying to me this whole time, and your wives really are princesses, and you're really not losers, and you really do need to make this." Like, that whole thing was really funny. I enjoyed that.
It reminded me of Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
But not Ricky Bobby, I mean Dewey Cox.
Yeah. But then it goes right to the robot showing up, like walking behind them, and like all the people are just like, "Ah!" because they just got murdered by this robot, and they don't know that he's really a softie. and like the Bill and Ted are like, "Oh no, dude, it's cool. He's fine." And then like the robot's like, "I just want to say I'm sorry for killing you, and my name is Dennis Caleb McCoy."
I feel like I have to say my name is Dennis Caleb McCoy.
This was probably the funniest scene in the entire movie, in my opinion.
I like how they all clapped for him at one point. They're just like, "Shut the fuck up."
Yeah, like Bill and Ted were just like done with it. Like when he's just like, "Shut up." The interactions between Bill and Ted and Dennis Caleb McCoy were probably my favorite parts of this movie. It was just really funny. Those were the funny scenes of the movie.
Yeah, and any scene with Ted's little brother or the robot, in my opinion, were just golden scenes. Yeah. You couldn't go wrong.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get rid of the whole Bill and Ted finding other future Bill and Ted's part, I really like the prisoner Bill and Ted part too.
I thought Ted was done way better than Bill in that situation. Bill's looked like like his muscle looks super fake.
Yeah.
Whereas Ted, like Keanu Reeves fake, Keanu Reeves kind of looked like he pulled it off. Like it almost could have been him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're right about that. Ted's looked like cartoony, but possible. Bill's looked cartoony and 80,000 light years away from possible.
Who's the detective from S.H.I.E.L.D.? Dick Macy? What's his name? He looked like a roided out Dick Pacey, whatever his name is.
Yeah. But the part about it I like the most is like when they first show up in the prison cell, like they're doing like this song for the other prisoners, like the future Bill and Ted prisoner versions. That's like this weird guttural, like folk screaming thing. And they're like, what the fuck's that? And they like approach it through the fog and they see their, prisoner cells and realize it's the same. That's what the reason I like this so much is all these future versions that they're meeting of themselves are the same future version that they keep fucking over.
The funny thing, I think the ironic thing is, and it's probably a message that's probably over the head of most people that watch it, is that they're on a journey to change their lives, right? And they keep on running into another version of the same version, but every time they run into him, that version has changed their life completely. And they're still the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was pretty funny because like this whole like guttural weird music that they're doing isn't much different than the song that they do at the beginning of the movie at the wedding. But like they're like, yeah, we came up with the song. How does it sound? And they're like, is that a song? It's like, the irony is part of what makes it so funny because it's so close to what they were doing at the beginning of the movie, and them like questioning if it's a song or not. It's just so like fourth wall breaking.
It's called full circle, all right? You wouldn't understand.
But one of the other things that's hard to understand is the C plot of this movie, which is, so basically the C plot is created by a scene early on where Bill and Ted go to a marriage counselor with their wives, the princesses, at the same time. They're like, oh, I love you, and so does Ted love his wife, and like the vice versa. Like it's one of those things where they're trying to make it seem like, oh, they're so inseparable, they can't say anything by themselves. They have to include the other person in it. It's a little weird. And that whole scene, it's with the chick from Workaholics, which I don't really like her very much. And that whole scene I wasn't a big fan of. And it sets up this thing where they're like, oh, your future selves are going to come back and let you time travel to find a version of a timeline where you're happy with us. And they tell them not to do it, but then they do it. And it sets up this thing where the princesses are just going through time at the same time that their daughters are going through time, at the same time as their husbands are going through time, and just randomly appearing in these scenes where bad shit's happening. And one of the best things is when they show up at the prison part, right? So like in the prison part where they're like running away from the prisoner versions, they show up and they see him like, oh my God. And then they're like, no, you need to leave right now.
Notice how it never really showed their old counterparts that they were being chauffeured around by?
Yeah, it showed them like in a wig and a mask from a super far distance, but it never showed them up close, yeah.
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 There's your spin-off right there.
Yeah.
New spin-off, it's going to be the daughters, right? And turns out those people, the people in the wig from afar were actually the daughters. Twist.
Yeah, I could see that. But that whole C plot line with the princesses was super tacked on, in my opinion. I feel like the actresses demanded it. Like, we're not going to be in your movie unless you give us a C plot.
Yeah. I mean, woman power. I am woman, hear me roar.
Yeah, but I thought the hell sequences were very well done, though, in terms of like CG and green screens. I thought that was like the best version of it they did.
Yeah. I loved how the exit out of hell was in the SWAT vehicle from his dad that got lasered.
Oh my God, that was pretty funny. And fucking Death was underused in this movie. I thought he was going to be a main character, and it turns out he doesn't show up till like the last 30 minutes of the movie, unfortunately. But the time that he does get is very well used. That scene with him in hell was one of the funnier parts of the entire movie as well.
Fucking Bill Gates' villa on the fucking hellscape.
Yeah. And he's playing tetherball with himself like he's in elementary school. Like, the optics were
Dude,
great.
you were doing 40-hour bass or 40-minute bass solos, man. Well, those 40-minute bass solos were the best thing you guys had. So
yeah, so basically, like, the gist of what we're supposed to get is that after Boga's journey, Death decided to become like too cool for school, and like he started going like Slash on him. And just started doing like Tony Amoe, like 5-minute or 50-minute solos, and just like, and they kicked him out. And then like it was like a bunch of drama. So like they show up to like try and woo him back into the band.
It was Death also sued him for the name.
Yeah.
What's the first thing fucking hilarious? Death, you sued us.
There was a lot of
Wild Stallions.
There was a lot of litigation talk in the scene. It was a good scene. It was one of the better parts of the movie, in my opinion.
I think it was the best scene with his daughters too. They're like, "You guys better step outside," because they just looked at Death, and he's just like moping there with his headphones on.
Yeah, and they bring him back in. You're like, "Is there something you want to say to Death?"
Yeah, that was well done.
Yeah, I love that scene. But nothing can really make up for the tragedy that is Kristen Schaal as Rufus's daughter. What the fuck happened there? Like, you didn't have to keep Rufus as a character in the movie. You could have totally just introduced a new character that has nothing to do with him. I don't understand why you needed to like, oh, let's go find a Jewish actress in Hollywood that looks vaguely like George Carlin and let's hire her as the daughter and create this weird thing. It's just like,
sure she's not actually related to George?
That if that happened, I would approve, but I don't believe that happened, and I hate Kristen Schaal, so I don't approve.
I don't approve. I disagree.
I've seen her in so many things, and I hate her in all of it. And she's one of those really shitty correspondents from The Daily Show back in like the mid-2000s that I don't know why, but people saw her on that, and they're like, oh, we need to make her a Hollywood star. It's like, dude, when I saw her on that, I was like, why is this bitch on my television? She is not funny. She is weird and stupid and off-putting in a way I haven't seen since Fran Drescher. Like, it's just like, what the fuck is this bitch?
I don't think anybody can reach what we call the dresser zone. That's like, I mean, anybody that's watched an anime called Evangelion, you know when shit's really hitting the fan and Angel's like touchdown and everything's in like red alert and everyone's just like thinking they're gonna die. That's what it's like when Fran Drescher opens her mouth. You're just like, oh God, sink the cities now. Do it. Go.
Yeah, and so Bill and Ted do reconcile with Death, and they escape hell in the SWAT vehicle that Broadcaster Nickels alluded to earlier. And this was like the only part of the movie that had appropriate music. Did you notice that? When they're escaping hell in the SWAT vehicle, they're playing some sort of metal song. I don't know who made it or what it is. I've never heard it before. But it was something that you would expect from a Bill and Ted movie. It was the only time I heard a good song in this entire soundtrack, I think.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like, is it Marty Friedman and Jason Becker, I think is his name. They were in a band together, I think. It was like Cacophony. I think that's what it was called. But it's like some super hair metal, like that type of scale of electric guitar with high-pitched solos and stuff like that. It's super dramatic.
Yeah. It's weird. This movie makes a really genuine attempt to turn Bill and Ted into like folk rock. And it's really weird because
off-putting.
Bill and Ted were hair metal. Like, they were 80s hair metal. Like, that's what the Bill and Ted was. Like, that's what Wild Stallions was. It was a big joke. It was like King Diamond. It was what it was. And now it's like, we're in 2020 and you're like trying to sit here and like act like they were like a folk band.
Yeah.
It was just a big, weird left turn after Bogus Journey, which had some of the like if you like look at the way Excellent Adventure pivoted into Bogus Journey, it went so much more metal into Bogus Journey. For them to just like backtrack so heavily, it's just weird.
It's sad too because the metal scene could have really used Bill and Ted.
Fuck yeah, they could have.
You know,
fuck yeah.
Shit, even more so the hair metal scene could have really used fucking Bill and Ted. There's a couple of good bands out there, I think, like Steel Panther and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they could have got exposed on Bill and Ted, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's how you can tell that this movie is not in the same creative controls of the original creators, or at least the original creator of Bogus Journey. I don't know exactly what happened here, but you can just feel the difference in multiple ways. And the music is one of the big ones.
I felt it after the shameful use of the holographic George Carlin.
Yeah, that felt a little weird, didn't it?
Very much so.
And also, like, the way that, because Kristen Shaw was supposed to be his daughter in the movie, and, like, she saw them reacting to him, and instead of it being like a moment where it's like, oh yeah, George Carlin's dead, let's pay him respects, she just like drags them further, like, what the fuck are you doing? No, shut the fuck up, let's keep going. Like, it almost felt like she was, spitting on his grave a little bit.
Par for the course, as they would say.
Yeah. But
let's reboot a franchise. Oh, we can't do that? Okay, let's just do a sequel, but ignore it being a sequel. And let's spit on everything that the fans like. Let's start with Star Wars. No, wait a minute. Let's start with Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, one thing I did like is the post-credits scene. Did you see that?
Oh, with the old guys doing the solo.
Yeah, so it goes back to the old Bill and Ted that ended up giving them the song right before they got sent to hell. And there's just like, yo, there's only one left thing to do. And they're like, yeah, you're right. And they just like get out of their beds and just like start jamming on these guitars. And then they're like, oh, I'm tired now. I need to sit down. It was just like, it was so real. Like that scene when you're watching, you're like, oh yeah, if I was 90 in an old folks home, I would probably want to jam like that one last time. And after I was done, I also probably would have wanted to collapse and die. This is a very real, poignant scene, and I liked that. But overall, what do you think about this movie, like where it compares to Bogus Journey and Excellent Adventure?
I would say Bogus Journey, Excellent Adventure. I mean, it's so hard. I haven't seen Excellent Adventure in so long. Bogus Journey is a little bit more fresher in my mind, but I would say right now, Bogus Journey, Excellent Adventure, and then Face the Music.
Yeah. I would give the exact same. I think Bogus Journey is clearly the best Bill and Ted movie, and Excellent Adventure is good, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's very basic, and it's not metal like Bogus Journey is, so it's like, it's kind of
very
hard to
adolescent.
quantify. It is very adolescent. And so in certain ways, I like this Face the Music movie more than Excellent Adventure in certain ways. But overall, I think I put it below Excellent Adventure because even though I think I laughed more at Face the Music than I did Excellent Adventure, because there's a few scenes in Face the Music that are just like fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And I laughed really hard at certain points of this movie. Excellent Adventure, I didn't really laugh too much at. When I watched it as a kid, I just liked it. I didn't laugh at it a lot. I just liked it as a movie. I didn't get a lot of laughs out of it, though. But Excellent Adventure was genuine. Like, everything about that movie was super genuine. The portrayal of the characters by Keanu and Alex, the portrayal, even the C and the B characters, like Missy and Ted's dad, fucking Genghis Khan running amok in a fucking mall. There was a lot of earnestness and genuineness in Excellent Adventure that is not present in Face the Music. Face the Music is not a genuine, earnest movie.
No, it's what you call a cash in.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like to me. It's sad to say because I really like Keanu Reeves as an actor, but the movie ultimately comes off as like, well, we're just almost too old to ever cash in on this IP, so we might as well do it while we still can, and the people that even care about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it kills me, though, because it's like you're at the very end of your window for making Bill and Ted movies with the original actors. And it's like, couldn't you have just put some effort into it? But overall, not the worst movie I've ever seen. That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, we here at the Crack Cellar Podcast have a segment called The Hit, The Miss, and The Whiff. Are you familiar with such a paradigm?
Currently on season 3 of X-Files. Go on.
The truth is out there, and so is the hit. Broadcaster Nickels, what is your hit?
Ted's little brother. Talk about a character he didn't think was going to come back. And he pretty much he started that engine. He made that movie good at the beginning.
It was such like a subtle, small performance that would has so much impact. Yeah, my hit is definitely the villain of the movie, the evil robot, Dennis Caleb McCoy. Holy shit! Could you imagine a good movie that had this guy in it as well? Could you imagine what we might be saying about this movie if the rest of the movie was good and also had one Dennis Caleb McCoy in it as well?
Yeah, if there's a continuation of the, Bill and Ted verse, it needs to be with Dennis Caleb McCoy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
He needs to carry the torch.
Yeah. If any spinoff comes from this, if Dennis Caleb McCoy is not in it, then I want no part of it. He is Bill and Ted at this point. That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, what is your miss?
What isn't a miss, is more like the question. I think the biggest whiff, probably Rufus's daughter. Yeah, I'd say it's Rufus's daughter. I feel like that was just, it was bad taste. Just like George Carlin's dead. You didn't need to make a female or bring in a daughter just so you can say she's George Carlin's daughter and then have a hologram, which is shameful.
Yeah. It was a baffling choice. I just don't get why you would say, you know what? How are we going to honor George Carlin? I know, let's bring this hack female comedian that no one likes from The Daily Show and have absolutely no personality whatsoever.
I'd be surprised if she actually liked the first 2 movies.
I guarantee you she's never seen either of them. I would bet you $30,000 that she's never seen a single Bill and Ted movie.
That's sad. It's darkest timeline right there.
Yeah. Kristen Shaw's definitely a big miss, but my miss is actually the soundtrack. So
that's a good one.
My favorite part of Bogus Journey was the soundtrack. I fucking love the soundtrack. It had Megadeth. It had all the heavy hitters from the late 80s, early 90s in the metal scene. It was if you just listen to the soundtrack straight through, it's like a metal album. And that was one of the first times I ever saw that in my life. When I first watched Bogus Journey, that was basically what introduced me to fucking metal. And it was a life-changing experience. And it's one of the reasons I hold Bill and Ted in such reverence. And for them to literally replace the soundtrack with pop music, hipster pop music, folk pop music, just every variance of pop music you can think of in one metal song for 10 seconds. It was a travesty. And like I said,
future.
I just want to reiterate that one of the songs they play in the credits is goddamn one of the theme songs of a Verizon wireless commercial. Okay, this is the darkest timeline we're talking about here, where Bill and Ted is using Verizon wireless commercial music in their movie. That is a travesty, almost as powerful as Kristen Schaal being in the movie in the first place. And with that, Broadcaster Nickels, I will ask you what your whiff is.
The whiff. I would say the wives. Yeah, I'm just a fucking bigot.
You misogynist bastard.
They were just lame. I think there was enough female action going on in the movie anyways. It's just like, I think the movie could have cut some of the fat off,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole C-plot with them was so contrived.
They could have wrote that off as, like them in the beginning with like fucking, a 2-minute dialogue and then never show back up in the movie until the very end. Just be like, yep, the wives were there in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, the way they used the princesses in Bogus Journey, again, not to harp too much on how much better Bogus Journey is, but the way they used them in Bogus Journey was so much better. Even though that movie was absurd as fuck, it still felt real. This movie, it looks real, but feels absurd as fuck, which is not a good dichotomy, in my opinion.
Nothing feels Hollywood about the movie story. When I watch it, I'm just like, well, this doesn't feel high budget. This doesn't seem like, a Hollywood writers behind this. This seems like a indie festival, or maybe, a fan wrote the story or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. That being said, my whiff is the end credits. We've already mentioned the fact that the credits feature Verizon Wireless commercial music, which is a high crime against humanity in its own right. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the weird video sequence that happens in it's like there's 2 credits. There's like the first credit, and then there's like the final credit, right? Where it's like scrolling down. So in the first credit, they just start showing video clips of random people jumping around, breaking guitars, and like acting stupid.
Would you say it was diverse, Daniel?
Is this now? Are we in now?
I think you're going to tell me it was diverse, aren't you?
Dude, this was so cringy. There is some cringe in this movie, but I did not cringe any harder than when the first end credits went with all the video and it just showing like random people who I have no idea who they are or what they are, just like being goofy and like being funny and like breaking guitars. Like it was like home movies. It was like a bunch of home movies of nothing. It had nothing to do with Bill and Ted.
Nope.
When watching it, I'm just like, did you guys just say, hey, we want 100 people to get on a Zoom call and just act goofy and we're going to record it and you're going to be in a movie?
I bet you it was a contest.
Dude, it was so bad.
You want to be in a Bill and Ted movie?
I shook my head.
A Skype call to end credits.
I don't often shake my head at end credits of movies, even bad ones. It's very rare where I just sit there and just shake my head at it. I shook my head at these end credits. They were so weird, so bad, so cringy in every possible way. It was a final insult to Bill and Ted. And it's sad. It's just sad. Like, why did you do this? You already disgraced them by putting pop music in the ending credits instead of rock music or metal. You already went that far. But you had to also rub salt in the wound by putting these weird video clips into it that have nothing to do with anything other than to just make you feel bad for watching the movie you just watched. But as you know, Broadcaster Nickels, here on the Crack Cellar Podcast, we use the official, patented Joker rating system. On that system, what do you rate Bill and Ted Face the Music?
I'm going to give it Juan Cesar Romero.
Oh, shit.
It was a poor performance. Not to say Caesar's mustache was poor. It was bold and proud. Not even that white face paint could cover it up. Unlike Bill and Ted, there's no amount of nostalgia that can cover up the tragedy that befolded in front of my eyes.
Yeah. I wanted to give it a Cesar Romero, but I upgraded myself to a Heath Ledger. I gave it a Heath only because of one Dennis Caleb McCoy. He made me laugh so hard that he upgraded the letter rank for me. I don't know what it was, but there was something
he's
about
what rescued
him.
it from Ladoville, all right?
Well, I don't blame you for giving him a Caesar. I don't blame you. This movie deserves a Caesar. And the Heath that I'm going to give it is a borderline Heath. This is a low-ranking Heath Ledger. This is not a strong Heath. I just feel like, man, you could have done so much with this movie. You could have just hired a writer that gave a fuck. Like, what? You came up with the most generic story that was designed to attract a new audience with millennials because of the daughters and set up a franchise. But then the entire movie, the ending, there's no setup. Like, the movie just wraps up. There's no cliffhanger. There's no setup for these girls to take over. There's no setup for Dennis Caleb McCoy to take over. It's just done. And you're just like, what was it for? It's kind of
sad. They just abruptly, she just comes in. She's like, yeah, I know you guys are, Rufus's daughters comes in. I know you guys did it, but this is boring. I'm out. I'm taking my dead boyfriend robot with me. He's like, peace. And that's it. And then literally right before the credits roll, the daughter's just narrating. She's just like, and that's it. They did it.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yep. That is why I give it a very, very weak Heath Ledger. And with that, we will close out.
Trump 2020.
I'm sorry for killing you all. And my name is Dennis Caleb McCoy.
Oh no. No.